You're watching League of Legends, specifically the League of Legends Proving Grounds, powered by Verizon. My name's TJ, joined by Cubby, just in case anyone was wondering.
Thomas TJ James.
Correct. Matthew Cubby Samuelson.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize we were going there. As get some cinematic replays of what happened in the last one. And if you did miss out on the last game, you missed out on Golden Guardians like putting TSM to sleep, scaling. I don't know. It was something like that.
It was brutal, is what it was. Here's how it started. You might be hearing what Cubby's saying, but also seeing on screen what's happening and being like, how did TSM lose this? It starts real rough for Rosethorn. You see his soul leave his body. But immediately after this, well, like 15 minutes after this, Golden Guardians start turning the game around. This is the very last thing they give over. And from an extremely disadvantaged state, it was like 10k gold deficit at this point.
It's not quite 10k. It was like 2, 3k. Always in favor of TSM.
Don't fact check me, Cubby. Never again, all right?
We're saying absurd things. I had. But this is where things get turned around, DJ.
Yeah, we turn things back around. From like a 100k gold deficit, Golden Guardians step up here in the middle of the map and find Cody-san just all alone.
A lot of R's pressed, but well worth it as they kill Cody-san. And importantly enough, got the flash. And after this, I think Golden Guardians made a nice call at that 4th dragon. They found a chunk onto a member that didn't have TP. They traded health bars evenly, but then got the base and TP back, and they were able to get that dragon. And TSM weren't able to find any footing after that as the Rise, the Ezreal, they did indeed scale as Yunbi played some Farm Simulator that game and ended up hitting really hard at the end.
Let me tell you, Cubby, I'm so excited to see this fight again. I was really worried.
We're complete.
That's good. Temporal pincer maneuver has been executed. As Golden Guardians tied up their late game and just dominated from here on out. This was, I think, a really weird game because Golden Guardians were making, frankly, silly mistakes during the early game that reminded me of an older Golden Guardians Academy, a Golden Guardians Academy that once struggled in the group stage of Cup. So to see them do all of that, look kind of bad, frankly, and then turn on a switch and say, okay, we're screwing around, but we're behind now. We're at a 200k gold deficit. Let's just bring this game back in control, was really impressive, but also, I don't know, something to worry about if you're a Golden Guardians fan, because, frankly, the mistakes of the early game shouldn't have happened.
If I'm a Golden Guardians fan after that one, I'm pretty happy with how we scale, like, we're able to scale it out. But also, like, the early game, it is something that would be talked about afterwards. Right? Because they did make a few mistakes in terms of overextending, not respecting the strength that TSM did possess in the early game. But still, you're playing Ezreal Rise into a low damage, low range team composition. And Golden Guardians just super outscaled TSM. I think that the fact that they still recognize that win con and still did play to it is a good sign for Golden Guardians. And especially speaking with Rosethorn, he said, I feel like we're at best in the mid-game. That's where we can win games. They did so here with some really good mid-game decision-making. So I think there are some nice golden nuggets to take away for Golden Guardians. On the side of TSM, I think that their early game plan, like the plays they were able to find, what Hyper was doing was all good. They just missed out on the part where they super snowballed the game, where they didn't really get the death ball off. Golden Guardians did not allow it, and that's really what hurt TSM in the end.
Yeah, it was that mid-game, right? I want to emphasize, when I say there's worrying signs for Golden Guardians, I entirely mean during the early game, because once you get past that point, it's an incredibly impressive performance from Golden Guardians. That mid-game fight where they do exactly what you were just talking about, shut down TSM, is one of the sickest fights I've seen today, and we've seen a lot of really cool fights today. The full 5-man target call onto Cody-san is insanely impressive. So, I don't know, how do we channel more of that Golden Guardians, I guess is my question.
Well, we're going to have to find out, as so far we do not have a swap of sides, and I don't expect to see a swap of draft on the side of Golden Guardians. That's going to be another first pick Lee Sin coming out from them. And now TSM going to have to find a way to respond. Last game, we saw Renekton and Varus being locked in here. This game, I think we're going to see a switch up, and that's the switch up right there. Going to change the texture of that jungle and mid lane matchup by taking away Yunbi's Rise and pairing that with his Xin Zhao.
So now that TSM has the rise, there's a little bit less perma-scaling the Golden Guardians can threaten. And I would be curious, Cubby, can you still full pivot to the early game Golden Guardians we teased coming into game number 1?
You could LeBlanc it. It's a pick here that a lot of teams would go for. One that Yunbi can play, has opted not as high of a priority on the LeBlanc, and instead will in fact be the Syndra. So a mirror matchup of the last game. But
We're matching to the late game then from Golden Guardians as they want to have answers in that mid-late to what Rise is going to threaten. But you can't...
see. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, we'll see if they end up going for that, because they still do have some time. And what they're going for already is that Niles Gangplank, as this is his most played, his strongest champion. Something that, even after the changes, he's been pretty vocal about the fact that GP is still very good. It's going to be a different build, more of a crit build, but he's confident enough to blind this into Hauntzer. As Hauntzer does get his choice, his response going to be that Gnar. A very important pick for TSM, one that we saw give them a lot of success in UGP, and a pick that Hauntzer has been incredible on throughout his career, including this split where he's 5-1 on Gnar in 6th place.
Do have the second ban phase coming up now. A little bit of a pivot towards late game with that GP as well, so Golden Guardians having options there, which is good to see after game number 1 where they needed those options. Still nothing, of course, seen down in the bottom lane, so TSM are going to ban away the threat from Newbie. Yurson, who had an incredible game last game on the Nautilus, I'm wondering if it's worth taking things away from him. We already see the Alistair removed. Golden Guardians do have the choice to ban away either at him or Cody-san, and they prioritize Cody-san, removing the Tristana instead of anything else.
The good news for TSM this time around is that I think one of the things their comp struggled with was it was very low range into an Ezreal. And they only had one main engage option in Yurson. That's already fixed. Xin Zhao, Gnar, they can be Bash Brothers, they can go in. Yurson's going to pick engage on top of that, as he always does. And it looks like they're taking away champs that are good into Leona, as that might be the pick for Yurson. Trying to once again get the dog pile going for TSM, and Golden Guardians are going to recognize that, will deny the Leona pick from going in, and this actually leaves TSM with a choice. Do they want to take their support now? That will be the case. It will be the Rel coming out for Yurson.
Yeah, Yurson plays an incredible Rel, so frankly, I'm a little worried for Prismal and Newbie with those pools reduced so much. You certainly don't want to be playing a Leona into a Rel, so this is going to be very interesting for Newbie.
They wanted to get crazy. They could go for something like Karma Ezreal, but I don't think that's enough engage, and so we're going to see instantly the Rakan taken, as Golden Guardians feel like they need more engage, even though it is a matchup that into Rel, Rel can cancel the Grand Entrance with a nice attract repel on the stun. So we're going to have to see if Yurson has the hands to do it. I'm sure he does. And now we're going to have to see, does Prismal end up opting for the Xayah? Would be blind, and that will be the choice for Golden Guardians. So Lovers Duo taking to the bot lane.
I will say I kind of like the TSM draft for the same reason I liked the Golden Guardians draft in game number 1. They've got a little bit more flexibility, a very defined front line. And
here.
You think it's Varus here? If it is Varus here, it would be a very defined back line as well, providing the majority of the damage between the Rise and whatever this AD carry is. If we see some options, it'll be a Jhin.
Jin's alright as well. The reason I like Jhin is range. And Golden Guardians, much how TSM struggled with range in the last game, I think that range into Xayah is something that's very powerful. You can keep her at a distance and keep her from getting in the mix of a fight, as TSM have a lot of team fighting tools here, especially with that Jhin now able to set things up for Hyper and Hauntzer in the later stages of the team fights.
Yeah, I think that whole draft exchange around the supports really broke towards TSM. Because they leave into that second phase with just a much stronger bottom lane in terms of reinforcing their composition's identity. You can use Yursan on the Rel to be a tanky frontline, to be an engaged frontline for what the Rise wants to do. Combos very well with Hauntser's Gnar, combos decently with Hyper on the Xin. Whereas over on Golden Guardians Academy, I'm looking at that Rakan and I'm not seeing kind of the front line that you frankly need to survive a mid-game against Rise and Jhin.
And it's a lot of pressure onto Rosethorn for this game, because not only does he have to go in and find the kicks and the engages, but also he has to go in just get Newbie in the mix for the fight, right?
Yeah.
Popping that quickness, and shielding the Lee Sin is a good way to get Rakan that bonus range to find that nice quickness and grand entrance combo that we always love to see. So, lot for Golden Guardians to do, but the one thing that Golden Guardians can do very well is that they have great disengage in what TSM is throwing at them. GP, Syndra, Xayah, all can keep you at a distance. The thing I'm concerned about is that as the game goes on, Ryze can kind of break the side lanes, and Jhin will outrange what Golden Guardians has. But if they can navigate and find a way around that, get some picks. If this Xayah gets big and people get in range of Xayah, she can shred.
I like it. We both like TSM Academy going into game number 2. And that means we might have a 3-game series on our hands as we head into things.
And
got lied to. Remember last game when I was like,
it was so clean.
I trust our producer. I'm just going to
so
full
clean
send.
that I lost connection. That's okay. How clean the last game.
Let's talk about this draft then a little bit longer as we do talk about Prismal and Newbie here. Because you were very harsh on the kind of Xayah range into this composition. I'm going to be even harsher. I don't see how you teamfight with a Xayah into a Rel Jhin Ryze.
Yeah, so the Xayah into Nars and Zao, that makes a lot of sense, right? Xayah's great in any champion that has to jump into you, because further back those feathers are, the more feathers you have, the bigger the rip is, and you have to walk into a team fight for that. But in the Ryze Jhin, it is difficult. Now, Prismal, he will have Exhaust on Newbie, should be opting for Gale Force most likely as well to kind of change the way that rip moves too. And I think the big key is if Golden Guardians just need to stay disciplined. They need to really utilize the Gangplank and the Syndra to create the space with the slows and the stuns, and buy the space for Prismal to get in range of those frontline champions and kind of go one by one. So I think that, much like last game, Golden Guardian is going to have to show a little bit more discipline and avoid getting picked off by the Ryze and the Jhin. And that is something that Syndra is always great at, is just facilitating fights, facilitating other people to do damage. She always brings a lot of zone control, so it's going to be a lot on Yunbi to try and open up that space for Prismal, get the damage done.
All right, ready? Take 2. As it's time to head into game between Golden Guardians and TSM Academy. Yeah!
It's clean,
Thank you very
baby.
much, Producer Pine.
Just here to help with all of TJ's fun and shenanigans, as, like I said, just along for the ride. Just along for the ride.
Producer Pine says in our ears, she was very tempted to just let me hang there for a bit.
Well, you know, 3's a charm, not only in books, but also in
I would
comics.
have let you try. If it hadn't worked for me, I would have let you try, Cuppy.
Well, that said, we're going to have to dive into this one, and I think all eyes early. Actually, go to the top lane for me, TJ, as this is the new Gangplank. You can tell Niall's not running Grasp in this matchup. It is 11-1-7, and some changes to GP and how Grasp interacts with that champion. And Niall's convinced that even the buffs that GP saw on the live patch didn't need him. That GP is still strong enough to function in the top lane, and Niall's being one of the better GP players that we have on the server. Let's see if he can make his champion look good with the changes.
How do you feel about Gangplank's facial hair? You've been growing a mustache recently.
It's way cooler than mine. Kind of jealous.
A good check. Thank you very much to our observers for getting us up close so that we could give Cubby that little bit of envy. I do want to talk about the early game here, because I feel as though it is TSM's or Golden Guardians' one chance to really have an engage on the map. You still will obviously have that Rakan, have that Lee Sin going into the late game, but if they don't find momentum, it's going to be really scary for those champions who are lightweight, hard engaged characters to jump into the TSM roster.
Rosethorn has to be like surgical on this Lee Sin is pretty much what the group consensus is here, TJ. As a lot of weight's going to be on his shoulders on the Lee Sin, and a little bit more difficult to fly with this game, as a lot of tools on the side of TSM to try and cancel those insect combos we've been seeing all day, as like Gerson on the Rel can make things difficult, Takeover has the root, you have Hyper with the knockup, Meganar can also prove to be problems, as see if Rosethorn is up to the task as this first pick we send. Keep in mind, also a deny over from Hyper, who is and was known for his Lee Sin play when he was coming up in the system.
Stun found, Rosethorn in trouble. Takeover will flash away from it. Very good reflexes.
Did that Q hit the minion that Yunbi threw? Because that's tragic if that's the case. I think that's what just happened. That's actually really tragic on the side of Golden Guardians.
My eyes don't work fast enough. Takeover did, it feels like, time the flash pretty perfectly to avoid Rosethorn's damage.
That could have been it as well, but I saw the minion like walking out with like low HP. I was like, oh my god, no way. Like, anyway, maybe my eyes are just too old for TJ, as Rosethorn is still going to use that to actually take away the Krugs from Xin Zhao instead of going for his own. So, nice choice coming in from him, and see if that pays off as Prismal.
Wow! Prismal, 1 HP and burning, but he will survive. Cody Sun eats a turret shot for the pleasure of that. Yursan's considering re-engaging after the mount up. Hi, Rosethorn.
Didn't want to die to Xin Zhao, who was going to contest the camp. So he's going to take fast track back to base. Honestly, it's not too bad. As I also do want to credit Prismal. Was burning from Yursan's Ignite, but did use Cleanse to drop the Ignite. So that's actually what ended up saving him in that bot lane skirmish. Is good play coming out from a former Academy champion.
Man, I was thinking about it, and the respawn time is like 5 seconds on Rosethorn at that point. Isn't it just a quicker back because you don't have to channel?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like same time equivalent.
People should... I have to be careful with my wording. People should walk into turrets more often.
Think about doing this strategically more often.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, Yunbi's in trouble.
Engage from Hyper, Ruth will be found. Yunbi, first blood over to TSM is Hyper. Is just able to walk up behind Yunbi in the mid lane. He still had flash, didn't get a chance to use him.
Very aggressive going for that scatter of the week.
Get another look at this.
Yeah, I actually want to see if this caught the minion or not. As this was close, because he throws the minion at takeover.
Oh my god! Cubby! He's got his arms raised in victory for those at home, as Cubby, your eyes are so good.
That's a big dub. We're taking that one home. That's good work. All right, TJ, you're on your own for the rest of the night. See ya.
He's walked out of camera frame. I'm not sure what to do with this. Thank you very much for the production replay. That was incredible. I'm in awe of how tragic that is. Shakespearean, as Yunbi could have had first blood if that had gone slightly differently, if the execute had landed.
Oh boy, speaking of more blood, Rosethorn in trouble.
Stunned up, Yursan roaming up alongside Hyper, and now in trouble. There's nothing left in Yursan's kit for a couple of seconds, and Hyper's going to get focused down by 3 players. Hyper is dead. Rosethorn equally low. Takeover finds the kill, but now he must disengage. The Realm Warp will do it. Takeover gets away. It's 2 for 1, though. Rosethorn dying in exchange for both Hyper and Yursan.
Worth trade from Rosethorn as he realized that his bot lane was going to be there. TSM's was not, as they try and take the grab, but I think Cody Sun's got a 4th shot.
Yeah, Takeover baiting for it. Excellent block from Nubi. Keeping that Rift Scuttler alive. And it will go over to Golden Guardians.
Nubi taking one for the environment there. Saving Scuttle.
I like it. Kind of the fly quest thing, but I respect branching out a bit. Rosethorn in huge trouble here, but Hyper, you know, there's nothing left in their kit, so you can just engage freely.
Yeah, and I do want to credit Rosethorn for that preemptive flash. That's really what opened up the window for this play to be made, and I think important that the carries do end up walking out with kill, as Yunbi was able to pick up 1, and now we have a contest.
Good engage from Yursan in this split fight, but Hyper's already dead, and that means this Rift Herald's almost inaccessible, or Drake, sorry. TSM have to play away from said Drake, as Prismal and Rosethorn, despite a brief reset, will be able to take it for Golden Guardians.
And Prismal pulled it, so they don't have to restart this. This is really good for Rosethorn, and just go straight back to feast upon those camps. As TSM, it feels like the last game, they had a good early game. It was controlled. They were able to take the right steps to get things ahead. But this time, things gotten a little bit sloppy, and things are going in favor of Golden Guardians and a little bit of the chaos.
Yeah, this fight, really good engage from Yursan, but Hyper is just taking so much damage from the Drake. By the fight begins, he's already at half. Ubi just isolates him, knocks him up. He has nowhere to go. He freaks out because there's pressure from one side, dashes into the Drake. It's a very easy shutdown, and there's Prismal. Just managing this Drake, just having a little heart-to-heart.
Just AFKs is like, my rotation made that kill happen. Takes a sip of water, just firing upon the dragon.
Right-click on the dragon, walk away, decent stretches.
That's what I just did. Celebrate the dub. As, despite the early blood going over early, I will say that I think TSM, 2 kills on takeover. That's still rather nice.
Haunter versus Niles. Niles will survive, and with a decent amount of HP.
Gold priority for TSM, not bad. 2 kills being on Newbie. That's a little bit unfortunate for the side of Golden Guardians. Of course, they'll still take those, but not on a carry. Well, these are on a carry. Oh,
Rose Thorn does not get the steal.
Oh, that was so close. But can they get the eye? Can TSM actually do this?
I don't think so. Newbie and Golden Guardians have completely zoned TSM off of the Rift Herald. What an excellent play by the Golden Guardians.
Rosethorn, the ultimate tempo cheater. Walks in, steals the dragon, walks in, denies the Rift Herald eye. So he's just trying to be a thorn in the side of TSM.
A Rose Thorn.
I had to do it. It was too easy.
Yeah, I got it. I was there for you. I was worried that someone in our audience might not get it, so I clarified it for them as well.
It made it so much worse, but I appreciate it.
That's what I'm here for, Cubby. Everyone plays defensive across the map, TSM resetting after a bit of a tragic time. They didn't lose anything, negative, but they certainly waste some time there. The goal dead even here, 10 minutes into game, with a minor lead to Golden Guardians. And Golden Guardians do have decent scaling here between the GP and Syndra. I think they activate a little bit earlier through the Syndra and Xayah. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, this is a window that Golden Guardians, once again in the mid-game, I think Syndra, the 1-2 item spikes can be very key in trying to shut down and really create some plays for Golden Guardians to get ahead in this game. Because as time goes on, I'm still not... I'd rather have the team with Jhin and Ryze on it as time goes on. That's where we're at. Even if it is a Gangplank versus Gnar, Haunter should be able to keep up. But well, I think that Golden Guardians going to be a change of pace this game because they have to start to find ways to push the tempo.
I'm not a Jhin gamer, don't get me wrong, I love his whole vibe, his aesthetic is great. But normally, Jhin just auto-attacks into a tank and has a bad time. Here's the thing, though. Golden Guardians do not have someone beefy to act as the front line. So those curtain calls in the late game are going to be absolutely devastating.
Let's see if Cody goes for a collector. We talked about tempo. Here comes a play.
That's clean. Here's the curtain call. It's going to miss 2 shots. Prismal will be tagged by the 3rd and forced to use his ultimate to disengage. The turret is safe. Nobody dies for TSM on a very aggressive Golden Guardians engage.
Really good defense coming out from Yursan, though, as he was able to deter the play, force Newbie to take too many turret shots for his own good, who has to actually flash out of there. And it is a teleport invested, so this might mean that Golden Guardians can posture a little bit more aggressively around this second dragon, but at least TSM are able to get out of the play unscathed.
Yursan very consistently lands his Attractor Repel onto one target, and then Pheromancy crashes onto a second target. And it's incredibly impressive because it gets him, just 50% more stuns out of his kit.
Yursan's Rel was piloted in the first series going up against 100, as that was the one that managed to find the win. A rather impressive game he was able to put together. 100 Academy. I guess I do have to clarify, because we do have both.
Welcome to the future, Cummy.
Yeah.
We got Next, we got Academy.
What's next?
100 next.
Okay. No 4 teams yet.
No. 100
Dragon,
high school in the future.
Second Dragon on the Rift, and TSM seems like they want this one as well. Niles is basing, does have Cannon Barrage, and almost has TP back up, so I'm curious to see if Golden Guardians can stall this out, but it looks like they're behind on the play.
That's just going to be picked up. Very easy Drake pickup for TSM, and it's an ocean, so pretty solid gain. We're going to go to a mountain rift here, if you're curious. Hope you like some rock climbing.
Deep breaths here, TJ, as no
I'm
action.
always taking them.
Yeah, no action here. It seems like we have had both bot lane shift into mid. I like this for the side of TSM, as Cody-san can be a playmaker with that ultimate. And the good news is, for at least the side of Golden Guardians, Niles has done a pretty decent job in this lane. This lane has changed a bit. GP's laning not quite as dominant because you can't abuse Grasp and Parlay, especially around level 1. And you have to change up the build. So as you can see, no Divine Sunder coming out for Niles. He's going to go for the crit build, most likely Essence Reaver into Immortal Shield Bow. Trying to be, put the bang back in bang plank. As you can't stack barrels.
Cubby, I did not like that. I'm not going to lie to you. Here's the play. Hunts are in trouble. Will be just carried in the bounce house. A very easy kill for Rosethorn. I will ask you a follow-up question, though, even though you kind of... Oh, maybe I will. You'd be in trouble. Magnet Storm as well. That's an instant answer. Love that for TSM. They find the trade on the opposite side of the map. So here's my follow-up question. At what point does this build kind of come online for Niles? When do you start worrying about the gangplank?
2 items. Once you're able to start getting that crit going, and once you get around level 13, where you can start stacking those barrels again, that's where he gets very dangerous, as he's trying to pout out of this one. Newbie's here.
TP in to back up Hyper. Rosethorn rotating in as well. This teleport's real scary. Hanser hops right out. Will get to safety, and he's interested in turning the tables. 4 players now here for Golden Guardians. TSM shove wholeheartedly through the bottom lane, through the mid lane. Going to be able to crash waves against both towers as the top turret does go to Golden Guardians. The first turret break of the game was TSM's, that down bottom.
And I'd much rather take the TSM side of this trade. I know that they're still behind on the Rift. Second Rift throw going over to Golden Guardians does help, but gold into Takeover's Rise. Very important in this game, TJ, as rushing to that 2-item spike, that's going to give TSM a lot more strength on the map, strength on the Rift. Now, where that changes is if Golden Guardians can use the second Herald to try and take down that mid-lane turret. I think opening things up at this point, very important to try and pressure, especially around the next few dragons, but much like the last game, Golden Guardians, it feels like they have to push the tempo a little bit early. They haven't been able to do so at the same rate that I think they would usually like to. And so TSM has been doing a decent job of answering across the map, getting gold in the right places. Rise being fed is scary. Yeah,
Rise being fed is terrifying, especially, again, given that they don't have a frontline who can eat a full Rise combo. Right? If Newbie goes in and gets tagged by the Rune Prison, the team fight is just over. They have no more engage.
Squishy comp, Golden Guardians to try and navigate as Yursan looking at Newbie.
Curtain Call, Yursan does not find the tank. He'll be here for Vision, a moving ward. Newbie dances out of the fight. Curtain Call spent, Magnet Storm spent. Golden Guardians have an interest in this team fight, but don't take it.
Chickens. Chickens go over to TSM, it's all worth.
2 ults, chickens in return. Now that's a good trade, says Cubby.
And they're sticking around as they're trying to find Rosethorn, who... Hyper, here we go.
Over the wall, Yursan springs the trap. Rosethorn hops onto Niles' shoulders and will be able to dash to safety, but Niles is being focused down. TP across the map. Cancelled by Hanser. He's just deleted. That's going to be a kill over to TSM as they grab Yunbi. Wow. And find themselves a massive advantage on the map.
That TP from Yunbi, I don't know if he casted it in the face of Hanser or if Hanser was hiding in a brush, but Hanser getting a free kill on the menu there. And also Hyper was able to get out of that fight as well. So TSM, that trap in the bot lane jungle, or bot side jungle, I should say, of Golden Guardians Academy, it pays off. They managed to pick up a body and also pick up the top lane turret too before this dragon getting more gold onto Gnar. He's rushing towards that Sterix. Hanser will be a problem in these team fights.
The trap down bottom was actually a trap up top. Let's take a look at how that was set up. If Yunbi just backs, it's a mistake.
Oh. So he's trying to get out of vision from Hanser, but yeah,
Hanser
his
knows
camera
what's
was just
happening.
pan bot. So, disrespectful.
It's really good communication. It is disrespectful from Yunbi. You can see that Hotzer knows what's about to happen. He's moving forward very aggressively. He knows that there's going to be a TP. I love it.
Yeah. The response here from Golden Guardians. That dragon had spawned. We were talking about the contest. Golden Guardians opting to not contest. They want more gold on their members. So, dropping the second Rift Herald in the top lane, trying to take this top inner turret for themselves, but they come up short.
More like Rift Daryl. Because he didn't do anything, Covey. Do you know a Daryl who gets things done?
I don't know anything.
Exactly. 2 turrets, 2 full across the map here. That top turret on a sliver of HP, but technically alive, I suppose. And the mid turret will go down. So TSM lose 1 turret's worth of gold. The second turret is just a couple of auto attacks away in exchange for their second Drake of the game.
And for the side of Golden Guardians, much like last game, TSM had a slight early game lead. They weren't able to push it hard enough against the scaling competition. This time around, Golden Guardians, they've been getting pushed around a little bit by the side of TSM. And I have to credit Yurson quite a bit for his rel play. It feels like he's hovering the right spot in the right time and getting the answers on the correct sides of the map, because guess who's fed? Takeover on the right. You can break game in the side lane as Growthorn.
Magnet Storm deployed. Yursan goes hard in, and Niles is down to half HP as Hyper tries to re-engage. Niles turns the tables. That is a massive cannon barrage, slowing down the entire team fight, and Takeover can't step up because of it. Hyper tries to return the favor. Curtain Call thrown from the side of the fight, chipping away at Prismal and Nubi. And here's the TP. This is big. Hotzer out of the TP into the Super Slam, and nobody's left for Golden Guardians. They've just got to run. Niles and Nubi are both dead, and Hotzer, Cody's son, they chase down across the map. Cody's son pursuing behind the turret to finish up the kill onto Prismo. TSM blow this game wide open.
And part of this play is also the fact that Yunbi doesn't have TP. He burned it in the last play that was attempted by the side of Golden Guardian, so Hotzer knows he gets the TP with impunity without an answer coming out from the opponent. Does so. Guess what? He's also Mega, so he breaks the fight, breaks things open for the side of TSM. And TSM find their footing back in this game as they try and push this 1-3.
Niles and Rosethorn, this like really harassing duo, stole this fight out. They're playing it so well. And then one by one, like a horror movie, they realize they're outnumbered. First is the curtain call, then it's the TP. And oh, what a TP it is.
That is a pretty terrifying horror movie when you have Hotzer TPing in a brush behind you in Mega. And is able to connect with that Mega Gnar just in time. Even gets Prismal's Flash as a bonus gift.
Flash dash, woo!
Flash dash pop. Cody's son showing that Jhin pick was worth it. He is going for that Collector second, as I suspected. So looking to pop the squishy team of Golden Guardians. As that's a big loss for them. They're now down 1K. We like the scaling on the side of TSM. And keep in mind, Takeover, he's the one that breaks this game. Can side lane with impunity. No one to stop him on the side of Golden Guardians.
And TSM have now reached a game state that's very hard for Golden Guardians to play into, like you're talking about. They're in the point of the game where Cody's son is a real threat to anyone on the other side. Next flash here. So, Golden Guardians, in order to engineer a positive team fight, I think need to start it with a pick-off from Rosethorn. Need to play around Niles. And the only way to do that is to have such engaged that there's no access to Niles in these fights.
They've got to catch him out. They have to do something with vision, and that's so difficult against this TSM roster because with the experience of people like Hotzer, people like Cody's son, this team, in the later stages of the game, will not give many windows to be caught out. And they haven't given any yet, not since about the 15-minute mark. It's been all TSM since then.
TSM will reset rather than force this Baron. This game, of course, only gets better for them, so there's no need for them to do anything aggressive or risky. They'll play instead around the Drake, or 54 seconds away from the next Mountain Drake.
Drake for the red side. It'd be nice to set up with a Jhin and a Ryze, as Sun is seeding this wave, but knows that his team is on reset. As TSM getting back out onto the map, trying to make a big impact, takeover. Finishing up that third item, Zanya's Hourglass, too. Now gets to a little bit more empowered to try and step up, try and make a play. Really going to be difficult now for Newbie. On the side of Golden Guardians, try and pop him before that Zanya's goes off.
Rosethorn, Niles walking up the mid lane. I raised that with an excited tone of voice because it looked like Hyper was going to do something. I was wrong about that fact.
TSM going to take terrain in the bot side of the river, as they're going to try and use Haunter on the Gnar to get around them with Mega, but Mega Gnar's down. He popped it early, clearing out that wave, getting the push for the side of TSM, so this is a window that Golden Guardians can try and force if they want to.
They have vision advantage. Hyper and Yursan on a long flank here. Drake being kind of jeweled for. Yursan is spotted. He'll dance away. Separated. This is a very split team fight. And Hyper's called out. He's got to be the focus. If Golden Guardians can burn him down, there's no jungler. They don't finish the kill. Instead, TSM kite the Drake out from the pit. Rosethorn steps up, challenging for the smite battle. He leaps in. Rosethorn manages to get the Drake, but here's the curtain call from the back of the fight. Absolutely slaughtering Golden Guardians, and there's nothing to be done. Yunbi will turn the tables with a nicely timed ultimate, taking out Hyper and Yursan, but there's nothing you could do in the face of all of that damage from Cody Sun, from Haunter, and yes, from Takeover, as TSM win the fight but lose the Dragon.
And it's the 4-man engage from Yursan as Haunter.
In trouble here. Niles completes the kill. That's an even trade now. Golden Guardians come out on top.
Okay. That's it's a nice pickup there for Niles in the back half, as Haunter overstaying for that red buff. I do want to bring the focus back, though, to the original team fight that TSM wins, because Golden Guardians put so many resources in forcing out Yursan, making sure that that flank engage doesn't happen, and guess what? Yursan finds it anyway. This engage over the Dragon Wall was beautiful as he hit a 4-man Rel combo.
God, he's so good.
Oh, and that's what wins TSM the fight. It's so difficult for them to navigate it from there, and it's good damage coming out from Prismal, from Niles. And Yunbi even able to pick up Hyper on the back half here. It's a nice bonus, but when you get a 4-man engage like that, it's so incredibly difficult to recover from the fight, especially when you have a squishy team. And Golden Guardians, the only reason they're able to recover is a mistake from Haunter just overstaying for the red buff.
He does get the red buff. Briefly.
Well, wow, yeah. Wow.
Briefly, Covey, for a moment.
There was an
Takes it
amendment.
a little bit. Gives it a lick.
Now, also importantly, Golden Guardians actually did steal away that dragon. So that does stop the soul stacking from TSM. We didn't cover that, but pretty much an even fight. Summoners are down. Want to see if either team can try and push the tempo, try and make a play. And keep in mind, TSM, you do not have to make a play at this point, as they have Ryze in the side lane. You can see Takeover consistently pushing out the bot lane in this case, just making sure that a member of Golden Guardians is spotted on their side of the map. This would enable TSM to make any play they want to try and force out a TP, force out an ultimate from Niles. And I think that's going to be the goal, the next step from TSM, to start bleeding out those skills that might check Baron, that might make map plays, as TSM try and use the advantage they have at the moment to do that.
TSM also at the end of that whole exchange did take the mid turret. Hyper in trouble here. Rosethorn in. Good inset. Hyper in real trouble. He'll flash away and survive. Yursan saves the day with another excellent magnet storm. The curtain call does find Newbie, but that is the only pick going over. So 1 for 1. Support for support. Off the back of a very good engage. Now TSM want to look for more. They're going to push down the middle of the map. Hyper looking for a flank. Niles steps up to challenge him, confident in his dueling prowess, and he's right. But the turret falls in trade.
Not quite calculating the shield bow there, but oh my goodness, Yursan. These counter engages coming out from the support of TSM. I know we opened up this broadcast with kind of referencing the emotional post that Yursan made about how this could possibly be his last games in NA. He doesn't want to go anywhere quite soon, as another humongous Rel combo enables TSM to turn this fight and take a member advantages. We got to go back to live, because apparently Golden Guardians off the back of that reset. They've started Baron. They're going to take it.
I love this risk. They're burning it. Yursan knows.
How'd this happen?
Golden Guardians will take the Baron, and they'll get away with it as well. As TSM take a little bit too long on their reset, and Golden Guardians take the risk, the Hail Mary, to try and get their way back into the game, to try to close this game before it becomes too late.
It's the pick on Hyper, and this is a tough state now for TSM because with this Baron, it's a crit Gangplank. We keep on talking about the scaling of the Rise, but now Gangplank in his team fights, Niles is one barrel combo away from breaking this game, breaking the backs of TSM, and all the hard work they've put in to crawl back into this one with good mid-game finds with fights from Yurson. They have to be very careful about how they navigate around this Baron, because this is a window that Golden Guardians can try and take away the range advantage that TSM has in these fights by manipulating their sides with Baron buff.
30 seconds before this Drake, and we are, for the second time this game, as Takeover pulls a brief pause. Newbie in trouble, will go in, Newbie's gone, TSM find the kill, Yursan stuns up too, Rosethorn dead as well, surely Takeover has to flash for it, but he will convert. In the meantime, Hyper's focus down, Prismal gets the 1-for-1, but that is not good enough, as it's 3-1 in the team fight. TSM dominating, a risky challenge for the Drake.
Risky or not, that Rune Prison from Takeover was all he needed, as he had 2 stasis available, only needed access to 1. As he walks up, challenges the support, stymies the engage of Golden Guardians, and
Niles.
TSM. Oh, he went for the steal.
Niles in a 1v2 does drop the cannon barrage, does not manage to steal away that Drake. Wow. We are, for the second time, at the brink of a Game 3. TSM may be able to do what our other series couldn't and take us all the way. Off the back of this, a catch onto Newbie.
So this is a little awkward, because I think that Newbie's like, I think Takeover's PC died, and then there's a pause. We get back out of the pause, Takeover turns and fights, and then one-shots Newbie. As he ends up going down, and Takeover just ripping through this fight on Rise. My goodness. Also, props to Cody-san, landing that shot and guessing the Gale Force of Prismal. On that shot there by Jin. Nice mechanics coming out of him, as Cody-san has quietly had a nice game, just controlling these fights, and now at the point with Jin where he has enough crit, and with that rapid-fire cannon, can always threaten that empowered auto-attack range, combined with a deadly flourish to try and catch out another pushy member of Golden Guardians.
Yursan over the wall, looking for an angle to get in. Golden Guardians. The Baron buff's expiring. Oh my god, but Niles is doing that.
That's what I was talking about with the Gangplank. Has that Infinity Edge, that empowered crit. This is, as I was saying earlier, the Gangplank, right? Those crits are big with the barrels when they connect.
Still don't like it.
But when you hit the barrels, it's a big boom.
Sure. You could go boom plank. I would take that. That would be alright, Covey. It's the combination of the mustache and the words coming out of your mouth.
In a previous life, it was acceptable. Not anymore.
Yeah, it undermines your ability to be cheeky. I no longer give you the benefit of the doubt.
Resets coming out from each of these teams, as we actually have what seems to be a rarity today in these games, a little bit of a lull in the game, as we have monster objectives 2 minutes away from spawning. The elusive Mountain Soul looking to be obtained by TSM, but Baron will be on the table first for each of these teams. And any real estate that could be taken for Golden Guardians in the topside jungle could be lethal, as any Gangplank barrel does have the potential to change the tone of this game. And I think that's the only way that Golden Guardians can truly get back in this game. It's going to have to be off the back of Niles' Gangplank.
I mean, it's about CC chains at this point, right? You're looking at Newbie, you're looking at Yunbi.
Yeah.
Set up for Niles, and if they do, this game's winnable. But it needs to be just the perfect team fight.
It has to be like that, because the tools the TSM has at this point available to them, and also the strength of this Rise. Look at Takeover in that inventory. Double stasis and a death cap now completed. As you saw Yunbi play Farm Simulator last game and do what he did after he got level 16. It's like, I want to do that this game. And Takeover 6-0-3, he's doing a pretty good job of emulating that, as he's been a big part of TSM's Game 2 game plan. We'll now look to put the finishing touches on this one, as a minute away from Baron. We have TSM back out onto the map after they shove out this wave. Could threaten this topside river They're going to try and keep Golden Guardians out of this real estate. You can already see Hyper, Yurson sitting on control wards, trying to prevent Golden Guardians from getting into this river, because holding this choke for them with the Jin, with the Rise, is so powerful.
Hyper over the wall here. We'll take away the buff.
A little risky play there by Hyper, but he's got it. It's all figured out.
He's frisky, man.
Getting risky and frisky.
Yeah, risky and frisky. I like that, Covey.
Risky business.
I think that undoes what you were doing with the gangplank. I think that kind of balances it out. TSM do have control of the river still as a result of the risky and frisky play. They're going to look to just lock down this Baron, I think, pretty much on spawn because of what they can do through the Rise. Because of how fast that take is. Golden Guardians need to throw, as we were talking about, a perfect Hail Mary teamfight into that.
And
here's the Baron.
Hanser is on a ward, but he's managing his Mega Bar beautifully, as he's just threatening the fact that he could go Mega at any fight start. As, oh my goodness.
Hyper, half HP. Niles, all it takes is one barrel, and Vostorn engages, is stunned up, is dead. Oh. And there's no jungler on the map now for Golden Guardians. So TSM turn for the Baron.
I love how they're playing this, though. That's one blue trigger burned. Oh, here comes Yurson.
Magnet Storm denied! Yurson melted! Yurson destroyed! Beautiful unleashed power from Yunbi. And that does everything you need. Mega Gnar is wasted.
Are they going to threaten Baron? I think they're going to try and threaten Baron to pull Golden Guardians away from the Dragon, but Prismal, he's burning, he's calling the buff to TSM because they had a blue trigger there, as now Yunbi's going to be the one that tries to check it. He sees them starting it out. Now he's going to burn this, but at least deny Mountain Soul. Now can they deny Baron?
Cannon Barrage just cancels out the Baron.
Wow.
Golden Guardians stay in this game.
Golden Guardians somewhat got away with murder there. And I mean, props to Prismal. That's a gutsy call. And someone that has been a shot caller in past iterations of teams that he's been on, of this team as well. Making that call to stick the Dragon, saying they're not going to start Baron, and if they do, they can't burn it fast enough for us. And then getting zoned off by the zoning that Niles and Yunbi both bring to the table on their champions. That keeps Golden Guardians in the game. As Rosethorn, okay, will not get followed in upon by Hyper, but DJ, at any turn of this game, whenever we feel like one of the teams starts taking control, the other one has something to say.
I mean, exactly what we were talking about. The perfect chain of CC came out. Yunbi into Niles' barrels. It was perfect, and it repairs losing Rosethorn. Gives Golden Guardians an advantage, and I bet their Baron take is really scary fast as well.
I know that Golden Guardians were hyping up their mid game coming into this, but now they're going to need their late game. Just as good as the mid game is, as they are going to be forced to start this Baron. They're going to try and pull the TP of Hanser. They know that Hanser's mini at the moment, so this is the window they can try and do it. Doobie
zoning. Niles, yes, this Baron take is very fast. Hyper over the wall. Control ward does have sight. Niles, oh, it's too late. Golden Guardians take it. Hyper dives in. Yurson unable to find the engage he wants as this curtain call is mostly wasted on newbie. Hanser during this time, though, just trying the backdoor, chipping away, will take this inhibitor. Golden Guardians get the Baron. They exchange it for an inhibitor.
That was so Takeover was trying to port Hyper in. Hyper got into the pit, didn't steal the Dragon, somehow ulted and lived throughout all of that.
Confusing stuff.
Yeah, as Hanser was sticking it, no TPs from him, just taking the side lane on his own. That's an inhibitor down, but overall I'd say a trade up for Golden Guardians, as with this Baron buff, they can manage that super creep wave and also try and take more on the map, as they have 4 members grouped up mid.
TSM need this win to stay in Proving Grounds. This is an elimination game. Golden Guardians, with one more win, knock TSM Academy out of the Proving Grounds this season. Keep their own hopes alive. TSM, of course, with a win here, extend the series to 3.
TSM with a 5th, 6th finish in PG Spring. Don't want to take a bottom 4 exit here, as they get a tough draw. Quadrant with 4 academy teams. One of them had the bottom 4. TSM fighting to stay alive, fighting to make sure that isn't them, as they're grouped up in the super wave, and they have Yurson snuck into this brush. Hyper, I believe, was spotted. Yunbi should check this.
He does. Hyper, red like a book. Good
Wow,
cannon
boy.
barrage. Oh, that's 2 kills! Hyper, your son! They're both dead! Niles digs a double kill out! And Golden Guardians can press onward. TSM now 3v5 to save this game. 38 minutes in, the inhibitor in the bottom lane will fall.
And Golden Guardians, we talked about this gangplank, how one barrel can change the tempo, the landscape of this game. Niles does just that as one barrel takes down 2 members at TSM, and now Haunter trying to be a pass down the side, but Golden Guardians, they went back to the wave. They're escorting it in. Shirelius is popped. Here we go.
12 seconds on Hyper, 5 on Yursan. First turret gone. Hanser looking for the side, doesn't have Megadar. Curtain Call is deployed. Hanser is focused down. Respawns do come out, take over. Hyper now back here. Yursan respawns as well. 5v4 for the game.
They got the Banshees off takeover. That's actually a pretty big item to take off of them, as we're going to have bases coming out from Yunbi to get mana back. He will TP on this wave, though. Golden Guardians, they want it now.
Pressure in from Golden Guardians. 32 seconds on Hanser's respawn. Nexus turret, 1 HP is gone, and so is your son. Niles just detonating this late game. Takeover, trying to turn the tables, trying to keep them in it, but Golden Guardians press forward, and Niles takes game number 2.
What a barrel from Niles. We were teasing it, that the fact that this gangplank, the changes they made, the fact that you get to stack up those barrels, this is the champion that Niles, one of them that he really made his name on, and that's why. 1 barrel. That's all it took for Golden Guardians to break the backs of TSM, break all the hard work that TSM put into this game, as TSM did look good in this game. They had control for the majority of it, but Golden Guardians, too tenacious at the end, calling the Baron buff to take that dragon, making the Baron play after Hyper died in the post-play of that fight. Golden Guardians making the correct calls to win these games, TJ, in clutch moments. They came up big.
Golden Guardians displaying a veteran shot calling that belays their age as a team. Incredible stuff when it matters. Time and time again.
Oh, man, and your heart, it's got to go out to your son. You know, he made that post today talking about how this could be his last game, how he doesn't know if it's going to be an NA after this, and plays his absolute heart out on the rel, making every play possible to try and keep TSM in this game. And to go down like that, being blown up by Cinder at the end of the game, that's tough. And of course, always sucks to say goodbye to our Academy and amateur teams, as I'm sure TSM Academy, unfortunately, their season does come to an end here. It was a valiant effort, and your son doing everything that he could in this one to keep his team in it and to make the plays necessary for them to give him a good chance to win, which they did have.
What a performance from Golden Guardians on the flip side of that, though.
Yeah.
Just managing to dig this win out despite their composition not favoring them. This is such a hard game to win. And Golden Guardians, despite everything, despite these team fights, which as you can see are just stacked against them, play through the one strength they have, Niles, in the late game, and manage to miraculously win this game, win this series 2-0.
That crit gangplank was... Whew, he was doing some deeps. As I mean, even this play, this engage from your son, TJ, just crazy. And Golden Guardians, like their ability, they found the flanker, they zoned him out. It just took too long on the play. Yes, Rosethorn does steal this, and that dragon was actually very critical being stolen, because TSM, they found another mountain dragon. That would have been soul if Rosethorn doesn't steal this. And the fact that even Prismo gets out here too, this is Golden Guardians somewhat, once again, getting away with murder. That's how close this game was. It was just on the edge of either team from taking this, and at the end, Golden Guardians the one coming out on top. As TSM, these post plays, being greedy, this Haunter death cost them, and then also Hyper going down later. That cost Golden Guardians, or cost TSM, the Baron that went over to Golden Guardians, and that's what really started to get GG back in this game.
Your son, my god. Oof. He's finding these engages, but at a certain point, it stops mattering. Here's the Hyper reference you were talking about. Hyper dying here gives Golden Guardians the Baron they need to extend this game.
This was the critical one.
It's Niles. It is Niles who finds this kill, who steps up, says, I am strong enough. You are undervaluing this build, my build, for Gangplank.
The new build.
And you're dead.
Yeah, these changes forcing that, as even Takeover had a huge play here, just denying that engage, finding the kill. I do want to credit, after that play though, getting a kill on Hyper's one thing, but the guts to go for that Baron play, that Baron call, that was huge from the side of Golden Guardians. And they made a lot of late game decisions that put them in a spot where, I mean, it felt like they deserved to take this game. This one being it, oh boy. 13-04 on the rel.
My god. It is horrifying to see. And it happens again here. Watch your San. Oh, we don't get the full replay. I feel baited. Your San just gets absolutely deleted. Horrifying stuff. We do have an interview coming up with Niles. And I'm very excited to hear what he has to say about the team. Hey, Niles. Welcome to the Verizon post-game interview. That was a nerve-wracking game. How are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really happy that my team was able to clutch it out in the late game, because obviously we were down in that game and it was really hard to play our comp. We fell behind, but I think we all stayed calm and composed and played around our win condition. And yeah, so I'm just proud of them.
And one thing that we were both incredibly impressed by during this series was your guys' team play and your guys' ability to make these really gutsy macro calls when you were up against the wire. Can you talk a little bit about what that process is like in your team, who's making those calls, how it's coming about?
Yeah, so I'd say that whenever there's some sort of standoff, especially in the late game between Dragon and Baron, there's soul tension versus Baron, right? You have to make decisions. I'm the main one calling the shots around that sort of stuff. Like, I'm thinking about when we took soul and they were on Baron. That was me and Prismal, especially because I saw that Xayah had no ulti. So even if I have TP, I don't want to be soloing the Dragon because Xayah has no ulti, so she can't actually contest them at the Nash, right? She's pretty useless. So I was like, Xayah to solo the Dragon, me and Jay, Yumdi, we'll get him off the Nash. So it's just like you just have to know what the enemy team can do, what sums are down, what you have, what tools you have to stop them, and then put that all together and make the calls, right? And especially another one at when Xin Zhao entered under our tier 2, right? I was like, I have shield bow. This guy's trolling, right? So he ease in. I still have shield bow. It pops, and then immediately I'm calling Nash, right? Because jungler's dead, and if you look at their comp versus ours, right? If we are on an objective, how are they going to get us off it, right? The Rel has to jump in. The Ryze can't walk up to Syndra or Rakan, right? The Jin's not going to do anything. Jin's useless. So basically, when the jungler's dead, we can just burn the Nash, and they have no way to actually get us off it. Whereas we have ways to get them off it, right? GP barrels, Syndra stuns, all sort of stuff. So you start to think about how the comps play against each other and make a decision that way.
And those were the two big calls that helped you turn around the game, but there were also two big barrels that helped you win the game, as you were playing a tried and true champion for yourself in the Gangplank, but one that's recently seen some changes, even seeing buffs on the latest patch. But I don't think you needed any of those buffs that game, Niles. You want to talk a little bit about what it's like, kind of when obviously a champion that you've played so much goes through some pretty drastic changes and kind of figuring out like how to make that work yet again, and how you're making Gangplank work at the moment?
Yeah, so usually with Gangplank, level 13 is really important, but even more so now with the barrel changes, you don't have as dominant of a laning phase. So if you're not as good on GP to begin with, usually people would get away with Divine Sunderer and Q spamming with Grasp and just auto win lane that way. But with the new GP, usually you're going to go down in lane. You saw it this game. Like, if I was playing Grasp GP, I'd be able to really bully the Gnar, but I go down in CS in the lane because I'm just not strong enough in lane, right? But his scaling is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't know if it showed, but when they're trying to siege our towers without Baron, I have 5 barrels, right? So I can triple barrel, clear the wave, and if they walk up again, I have more barrels to keep clearing waves. So the champion stalls out games incredibly well, and even pulling Nash versus GP is really difficult, right? So basically, I would just view him as like a stall champion, right? He's not as lane dominant, but if you can get to the late game team fights and you're confident in your barrels, he's so OP.
And we'll begin to wrap things up here, but I want to take a look ahead at the rest of the bracket. Golden Guardians have stayed alive in the lower bracket. You guys still have a tournament run ahead of you. I don't want to give you the classic question, how far do you think you're going to go? But let's say, is there anyone you're worried about?
Is there anyone that I'm worried about? I think Cloud9 Academy is pretty good. I'd say that Darshan is probably the top laner that I respect the most in Academy in terms of just overall play, laning phase, matchups. He understands the game really well. So me personally, I think Cloud9 is someone to look out for us. I know they dropped a lower bracket, but I mean, you just can't get Pancake Lord Ornn, right? So, I think Cloud9 is who we're looking for. And besides that, I don't think there's any other top lanes in the tournament that will give me problems. So, yeah.
I like it. Confidence. Is there anyone you'd like to thank as we do wrap things up here?
Yeah, I just thank all my supporters. I thank God for giving me the ability and the opportunity to do this, and all the people cheering for me. You know, I thank the haters for motivating me as well. I got a lot of those. So, the fans, God, family, all those people, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Niles, and congratulations on your win tonight.
Thank you.
And that'll just about close us out, Cubby. A truly impressive end to our second game of the day.
Yeah, both series, it felt like Game 2, both had the shot to go towards Game 3, but the team that ended up making the better mid to late game calls in the end, something that's tough to practice, you know, like a lot of practice for these teams in scrimming. It's about drilling those early games, drilling a lot of those, decision-making trees and what we're going to do with this comp, and sometimes we get to mid to late game, it just kind of becomes a fist fight, and we saw that happen in both Game 2s today, and it was really fun hearing Niles talk about that decision-making tree in the late game, right? Here's the call we're going to make and why. And having to think about that on the fly, like in 1, 2, 3 seconds, and like with how competitive these games are, Golden Guardians, they were the team that ended up doing that better, and that's the reason that we ended up talking with them after Game 2 instead of heading to a Game 3. So props to them. It was really cool to hear about, but also just kind of fun to see both teams kind of take the gloves off in Game 2, both games, and get after it.
Yeah. Just really astonishing series. We were given a real treat tonight. My name has been TJ, that's been Cubby. Thank you very much to our production, to Riot Games for, of course, putting on the tournament, and our players for giving us a great show. Thank you so much for watching. We are going to end the broadcast here, but it will be back this Tuesday, the 14th. If you'd like to tune in, you can catch it in the very same place. For now, have a great rest of your evening.